A long time ago, there lived a man named William Shakespeare. He said, "What's in a name?" He wrote dramas. A longer time ago, there lived a wise man named Confucius. He said, "The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper name." As we, the designers of code, aspire to traverse the path of enlightenment, let's listen to wise advice and avoid distractions from theatrical pursuits. In this video, I would try to tell you some good and some bad aspects of naming in the world of coding. Towards the end of the video, I would also talk about some ways to come up with more meaningful names. Choosing meaningful names. Look at this piece of code. Can you decipher what does this means? Now look at this piece. This improved name is more meaningful. The variable name should serve as a guiding light, illuminating its purpose. Imagine yourself as a future explorer of this code. The name should effortlessly reveal its intent, sparing you from the burden of deciphering its meaning, making code intent clear. Can you tell what this code does? Depending on your experience in coding, maybe you would be able to do so. But your experience with this particular piece, I'm sure, wasn't very pleasant. The code looks quite simple, but isn't self evident. For starter, we can't tell what list 1 does. What is the significance of the zero subscript of an item in the list? What is the significance of the value 4? Now, assuming that we are working on a Minesweeper game, we rename the list to game underscore board to represent the game board. Each cell on the board is an array. The zero subscript of the cell represents the status value. A status value of 4 means the cell is flagged, that is, there's a mine at this location. By giving meaningful names to these concepts and updating the code accordingly, we now have a clearer understanding of what the code does. It still maintains its simplicity with the same number of operations and nesting levels, but it has become more explicit and easier to comprehend. Avoid number series naming. One of the major reasons for French Revolution was that the people of France were fed up with the name Louis. Every time a prince was born, they would name him Louis. But how would they differentiate him from the king and his forefathers? Well, for that they had a very cunning plan. Simply add a number after the name. Well, I must say that although the intentions were quite noble, but they weren't very practical. In this code, if we replace the number series naming, even A2, with more descriptive names like source and destination, it drastically enhances the readability and provides clarity about its purpose. Avoid redundant words. Read this. I personally saw it with my own 2 eyes. Very nice piece of literature, even worthy of a Nobel Prize or at least a Booker Prize. But technically, we could have done with just I saw it. Similarly, in the code here, we are sufficient without using the word string with the variable's name, as it's clear from the code that it is a string anyway. Function names should be verb. Functions or methods should be named after the action or operation they perform. Let's say we are writing a class of customers where we would like to set the name of the customer, check whether they are premium customers or not, and how much discount can they receive on their purchases. The code would be something like this. As you can see, all of these are verb phrases, emphasizing the action that gets performed. Also note that we have maintained the consistency in the above code. These were some of the good and the bad practices of naming. To end this video, I would like to talk a little about a paper published not so long ago by a group of researchers at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The authors tried to deduce as to how experienced developers came up with more meaningful names. And if it's possible, teach young developers that skill. They came up with the following steps. Number 1, select the concepts that needs to be included in the name. And then choose words to represent each concept selected above. And finally, construct a name using these concepts. Now, to demonstrate these steps, I would present you a very simple piece of code. We would write a class for circle where we would calculate the area and the circumference. We want to come up with the names for the function for the calculation of area and circumference. So what was the first step? We need to pinpoint on the concepts that we need to include in the name. What are the concepts here? One is the calculation, the second is the area of circle, and the third, the circumference of circle. Now let's move on to the next step, picking the right words to show each concept. Most of the time, this part is pretty easy. For instance, when we are talking about the area of a circle, we can simply use area. We don't need to repeat the word circle because it's already clear. Similarly, when we talk about The circumference of the circle, we just say circumference. But sometimes we need to choose between different synonyms. For example, should we use measure or compute or calculate? To overcome this difficulty, the authors suggested to maintain a project lexicon, which is a fancy word for a repository that documents important definitions and alternative synonyms. Such a lexicon serves as a guiding resource, ensuring consistent and clear name choices, eliminating confusion along the way. So here we would decide to go with the word calculate and be consistent with this choice throughout the code base. And now, the final act, crafting a name using these carefully chosen words. This delicate process involves selecting a naming template that brings structure and coherence to names in the code base. It can be like using underscore or camel case to separate words, just like we use spaces between words, or using adjectives before nouns as we do in natural language. Following these ideas, we end up with our final names calculate underscore area and calculate underscore circumference. These names make our code clear and organized. These names aren't just words, they're like labels that show what we have built in a neat and clear way. With these simple examples, I hope you can embark on a journey of crafting more meaningful and descriptive names, guided by thoughtful selection and clarity. You can either take these suggestions or toss them out. Your interpreter won't even complain, but your code base would be a work of tragedy, like Shakespeare's play.